Hello, welcome to the Ask Dr. Dallas Holistic Wellness Hour with your host, Dr. Dallas, President and CEO of Life by Dallas Incorporated, the company dedicated to the H3 principle, educating, equipping, and empowering individuals to be self-reliant in the war against the big three, diabetes, obesity, and heart disease. We'll enjoy everybody's discussion, Sexology 101, Empty the Trash Can, Move the Matter, Dr. Dallas Speaks, and The Wrap. Every Monday from 11 to noon on WBGR Live. Greetings. We'd like to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors, True Pop Popcorn by Life by Dallas Incorporated. What's so fabulous about True Pop Popcorn? First of all, it's air popped, so the dietary fiber is high. They use nutritional yeast to make it taste like it has cheese on it, and sunflower oil to give it a buttery flavor without adding the bad stuff. It's absolutely great. You'd never think it was vegan. That's True Pop Popcorn by Life by Dallas Incorporated in 3 yummy flavors: Just Plain Good, Garlic Overdose, and the crowd favorite. Stop by your nearby stores and get some today, or feel free to go to dallaspopcorn.com. Hello, everybody, and today, welcome to the Ask Dr. Dallas Holistic Wellness Hour, and we have a special guest in the studio today. That would be Mr. Coy Dunston, the proprietor of Secrets of Nature health food store in Southeast Washington. We have a great show lined up for you because you answered the question, what do you want me to discuss on today's show? So today we got a question about enzymes. Someone actually texted me and says, Dallas, do you take enzymes? And just before I answered that text, I decided that we all need to know that we all need enzymes, and whether or not you're taking them is highly dependent on what your diet and your lifestyle is, but we all need them. They're actually a nutrient. So we'll go into great detail about that today. And someone else texted and said that their grandson had been diagnosed with Paget's disease, which is a bone disease. And so instead of texting her back on what my recommendations were, we decided we would talk about that today as well. And then as the season is changing and we're approaching the fall season, it's a great time to think about changing the body from all of the summer barbecues, the reunions, and all the other things that we just really did to neglect ourselves as we prepare to neglect ourselves and do a lot of the same thing during the holidays in November and December. So we're going to take a quick period here just to clean out the body. We're going to talk about why fasting is important, but more importantly, how to fast correctly. A lot of people will say, you know what, I'm just going to do a fast after they really go off on the dead end on a cruise over the weekend or whatever the case may be coming back from a holiday. And you can't just jump into a fast. You know, it's just like you want to have a garden. You can't just open your eyes the next morning and see a ripened watermelon or something else that you need to harvest. There is a process that needs to take place in order to get the most beneficial harvest. And so in order to get the best benefits from your fast, we want to show you how to fast properly. The pre-fast is actually the most important part of the fast in and of itself. So if you've prepared in your mind that you're going to do like a 10-day fast, a 10-day fast is going to require 20 days of your time. You're going to take half of the actual fasting time to prepare for the fast. And you have to consider the fact that as you complete the actual fasting period, you have to do the same thing coming off of the fast just to prepare your body so that it doesn't go into these drastic changes for the worse. We want to do it for the best benefit. So we're going to talk about that. And as I promised, we're going to do sexual health. We're going to actually talk about why fasting and the diet is more critical to the functionality of the sexual organs than anything else that you can do, and how some of your sexual acts in terms of positions will be good for things like anemia, high blood pressure. People struggle with a lot of things, and you can actually, especially for those of you, well, not especially, but for those of you who are married, that is actually one of the best ways to heal the body. So we'll talk about that at the conclusion of the show, which means you're going to have to stay tuned for the whole show. But right now, we're going to go to a commercial break, and then we're going to bring on Coy, and we're going to start talking about enzymes first and foremost, because it's not so much the enzymes also. It's not just the fact that you need the enzymes, but then we have to start talking about what are the best enzymes to take, not just what are the best enzymes to take, but the best manner in which to take them. And then that carries on to a lot of other questions that you have about other supplements that you should be taking. It's not so much the supplements you're taking, but the form of the supplement that you're taking. The difference between pills and powders, the difference between liquids and tinctures. So we're going to discuss all of that so that at the conclusion of this show, if nothing else, you'll know what enzymes are, why you need to take them, and the best ones to take. How about that? So thanks for joining us. Make sure you share with your friends. We're on WBGR Live. You can also get us streamlined at Minister Dallas on Facebook, and just share that with all your friends. Of course, the live video record will be up immediately after the show, and feel free to share that as well. So you're listening to Dallas, Dr. Dallas on Ask Dr. Dallas. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Greetings. We'd like to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors, True Pop Popcorn by Life by Dallas Incorporated. What's so fabulous about True Pop Popcorn? First of all, it's air popped, so the dietary fiber is high. They use nutritional yeast to make it taste like it has cheese on it, and sunflower oil to give it a buttery flavor without adding the bad stuff. It's absolutely great. You'd never think it was vegan. That's True Pop Popcorn by Life by Dallas Incorporated in 3 yummy flavors: just plain good, garlic overdose, and the crowd favorite. Stop by your nearby stores and get some today, or feel free to go to dallaspopcorn.com. Welcome back, everyone. And today, hello.
Hi, dear. How are you today?
I'm very well,
Good
Coy.
to see you.
It's always good to see you.
Yes,
Coy's
dear.
my good friend, Coy Dunston,
Yes,
over at Secrets of Nature. That's 3923.
South Capitol.
Put that up in a
Southwest.
second. South Capitol Street in Southwest. And I've known Coy for what? I think the majority of the time I've been in business, 20 years.
Yeah, I think
20 years.
Probably one of your first customers.
One of your first customers.
Yeah.
They sell a lot of True Pop Popcorn, our
Yeah.
corporate sponsor here for Ask Dr. Dallas, over at Secrets of Nature. But more importantly, the story behind Mr. Dunston that fascinated me the most. Actually, I was doing radio back then, and I shared the story about, I believe, when your mother was. Tell us that quick story before we move into the insights.
Back in 1980. I had just come out of school, graduated from law school at Antioch. And I went home to visit, see my mother and father. Had no idea what was in store for me. I got there that morning, and my mother was at the doctor's office in Lewisburg, North Carolina. When she came home, she was telling us that the doctor told her to go home, go to the Duke University Hospital as soon as she could, because he didn't know exactly how to diagnose what was going on with her. So the next morning, my father and I got up and took her to Duke University, and they kept her there all day running tests. And after by the end of the day, they came out and said they were going to keep her, and they thought that they had detected cancer, and they had to do some more tests. So the next morning, we went back, and they told us, yes, she had cancer, the colon, the breast, and the liver. So with that, they kept her for maybe 3-4 weeks, and they gave her an ultimatum: take chemotherapy or go home. And she asked me what would I do if I was her, and I say, well, I don't know anyone that has really survived chemotherapy, and you're probably not strong enough to handle it. And I say I would probably just get ready to go home and meet my maker. So
let's just pause right there for a moment.
Yeah.
So, because this is something, and this story just says it was fascinating 20 years ago. I think even more today with everybody and their mother having cancer. I tell people whenever I meet someone in leadership in the church, I say that cancer is a new genocide for the African American church community. And so it's this period, it's this time that you have a decision to make.
Right.
And so Coy just said that his mother was diagnosed with breast, liver, and colon cancer. And how old was she?
She was 60 at the time.
And she was only 60.
Right.
And so here we have it, because a lot of times when people will come to me, it's like, well, they have this and that. And it's the overwhelming elephant that's in the room that, what else can we do? What should we do? What are our choices? We don't have any choices but chemotherapy.
Right.
And so, and for the believers, we always say that God is always in control.
Right.
And when you're looking at something like that, and if you're honest enough or strong enough or courageous enough to ask the doctor, what are going to be my chances after chemotherapy? We don't even ask that question.
Right.
We just, whatever they tell us to do,
Follow, yeah.
just like human robots. And so that piece is important for those that have been diagnosed, those who have loved ones that have been diagnosed, to just hear this story. First, hear the story of one, a believer, two, that says, what's your ultimatum? The ultimatum really isn't, to me, that bad.
Right,
the ultimatum is like, you either do
really
this or you go to meet your maker. Actually, that is the better of the two. And so sometimes it's that trust that we must have and that faith and belief that, you know what, this is a journey and there's a better place to come. And sometimes that's what's going to get us through the situation that we keep placing our hope in man for.
Right.
And so now we're continuing to because this is like the everyday story now today. Yeah. And the thing is fear. Yeah. Fear is the thing that makes us go to one decision or the other. Because in most cases, the decision that we're making simply doesn't even make sense.
There's no basis
at all. It doesn't. It's just fishing in the dark. Right. And so I'm glad to hear you say that, so I'll let you finish the story.
Well, after we got the diagnosis and we had come to the conclusion that she would go home and prepare to do whatever God had in store for her, we got her home, and I felt an obligation to do what I could to help her. So I got involved in a company called Nature Sunshine, and mainly because they had the education and the tools and the equipment and everything you needed to really reverse disease. Mm-hmm. And they were the only company around at the time that was talking about reversing disease. And I thought that was a foreign concept. I'd never heard of it before. So they captivated me with that, and I got involved. I learned all I could. And after probably about 3 months after she was out of the hospital, they bought in a product called Padaco. And I started using it with my mother, with everything else we know to use in the alternative way, the fasting, the praying, and getting our mind right to either die or be healed. And that's a decision we made. We made the decision to be healed, and we worked with it for a while after that. And probably a couple of weeks later, she started improving. She started getting stronger. She went back to the doctor. The doctor said, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. So 10 years, she lived 10 years after that, and after that I was just hooked, and I haven't been able to do anything else. But what I do every day is try to tell everybody that'll listen that you don't have to die sick, and you don't have to be sick, and there are things you can do, and people are beginning to listen now.
Mm-hmm. Some people are beginning to listen. Some people are beginning to listen. And so it's very important there too that we want to reiterate is the fact that they went to some people that seem to be educated and knowledgeable in those areas. And so a lot of times people will come and it's almost like this combative type of thing where you have to prove yourselves when allopathic care has given you no proof whatsoever. In fact, they've given you just the opposite, that so many people have had body parts removed, they've had surgical procedures and everything else, and they still die of the same thing, just with less money in their pocket.
Right.
Only in America you can pull a gun on somebody and go to jail for the rest of your life and not even pull the trigger, but yet you can have your body parts taken and all your money, and it's perfectly legal.
That's correct.
So, and that's not to say that we don't believe. I tell people any day of the week, if I'm out here and my leg is hanging off after accident, take me to the nearest hospital that has the best technology. And that's what they're there for. They are there to treat acute conditions and to be able to do an instant prognosis on what needs to be done immediately just to keep you alive for that moment, not dealing with the ramifications of what happens when they remove a body part that you need to clean your blood on a regular basis. I'm amazed at how many people now are taking everybody's had their gallbladder removed, partial or full hysterectomy, or
that seems to be
something.
The first phase of any disease is doing what the doctors say, and I think we're waking up. We're beginning to understand that there is another way, and there's a better way, and we're beginning to embrace that. And the first thing you have to do is just become conscious and just think about what you're doing and believe in what you believe in, but make sure that what you believe in is not fake or phony, or it's really going to do you some good. Mm-hmm. So you want to do that first.
And that's why we're here. We're here to give you accurate information based on, we haven't invented anything. I designed our tea,
Yeah.
engineered it so
Yeah.
that the particular portions of the various herbs that we pull together to
Yeah.
use synergetically are at the right balance that works harmoniously with the size of the organs. And I think that's what makes it work as phenomenal as it does.
That is important.
But herbs and all of the rest of this has been around since the beginning of time, and that's what we always want to pay attention to. As we're doing this show, we talk a lot about, what we talked about when you were on my show 20 years ago.
Yeah, same.
Good, accurate information never changes. What your body is composed of, minerals, vitamins, macro and micronutrients. These things are timeless. And they're what we need. And no matter how much we change in society, no matter how much we have to have it today, no matter how little time we have to exercise and to prepare healthy meals, you have to continue to do these things for the quality of life that you deserve.
Correct.
And so I had a question that came from one of my friends about enzymes, and she wanted to know if I take enzymes. And so we're going to take a couple of seconds just to talk about that too, because that's the other piece to information that's disseminated. So there's a lot of information. You're catching us live on the internet. You have out of the kazoo here lately. Is that everything that's out there is not necessarily accurate. And a lot of times, for the sake of time, such a time-driven society right now, is that you'll get things in sound bites. It's just like, when you had a wave of health information or explosion with the Obama administration, Michelle doing the gardens, and then Dr. Oz simultaneously coming out at the same time. Whenever you have everybody talking about health, there are going to be companies that just have the dollars to be able to put things out. And a lot of times when that influx happens, you get a lot of inaccurate information. We talk about that a lot. Smoothies.com and other people that have billions of dollars for marketing, they're still telling you to throw the vegetables and fruits right in there together.
Right.
And the body simply can't digest fruits and vegetables together like that. And trying to explain that to people who are so accustomed to throwing their pineapples and carrots in a blender together is just like, what do you even begin to say? So we just want to make sure that the information that we pass on is as accurate as possible. And 20 years ago, I think both of us were trying to change the world.
Yeah.
Now I think we just want to give you as much good information as we can and allow you to decide whether or not you want to augment that information into your lifestyle.
That's
So
the whole
today,
idea. Yeah.
enzymes.
Well,
So when we talk about enzymes, we're going to get that enzyme flick up here in a second. We talk about enzymes. Enzymes are a part of everything that we do.
yeah.
They're a nutrient in and of itself. They are the reason that the body moves and has its being. So we need them in everything that we do. The problem is like everything else that the body is able to manufacture when you're young and vital and vibrant, is that as we begin not just to age, but unfortunately, as we get older, then we stop doing a lot of things that the body needs done to it. And so the body is not able to manufacture the enzymes at the level it is when we're children, adolescent, preteen years. And so when that happens, it becomes supplementation. And so when you and I talk about supplementation all the time, we're talking about the importance of digestion, assimilation, and elimination, because that's the key to health. So at your shop, what are the enzymes that you are recommending? Did you bring some with you?
First of all, just a picture you didn't get.
Okay.
First of all, I would say that one reason we deal with preventive education, how to prevent disease.
Right.
And we oftentimes get in trouble because we don't know how to eat properly or to live properly. So we provide information that will help you decide the best way to conduct yourself so that you don't get sick. That's where we're coming from. So we want to offer this information in the spirit that is given to assist you in being able to make a decision. We are a live enzyme organism. We need live enzyme food. And to break down live enzyme food, you need enzymes. And the way we eat, oftentimes too much animal fat, too much carbohydrate, it kind of drowns out the effects of the enzymes, and we wind up not digesting. So we get clogged up, backed up, and eventually that converts to a disease. So with that, we we look at how do we correct the condition. We learn how to eat, first of all, how to separate foods in a way that will not create the problems that we are having. I think we know that what they call the over-the-counter gastritis and for gas and bloating and all that. That's the number one selling problem in the industry.
Laxatives, yeah.
So it's the hype. They give you a lot of hype selling this will fix whatever's wrong with you, but none of this stuff was going to fix if you have an imbalance in your enzyme production. None of this stuff they're selling over the counter is going to correct that. So we want to give you the information so that you know how to do the best you can in terms of meeting the needs of your body by giving enzymes. We have an enzyme called
So
isotone.
let's just talk about that, because a lot of times people be like, "What? I'm really trying to up my tennis game," and so I've really gotten on the instructor about, you know, the language, you know. So you're fit, you're hitting balls, and they just assume he's like, "Do you know what hitting through the ball means?" And I'm looking, and you've heard it a million times, and it's just like everybody's saying, "Yeah, you see, if you watch tennis matches, you see how she hit through the ball." And so for him to actually say hitting through the ball is going from A to B in one solid stroke.
Right.
So we hear enzymes so often. I'm sure someone out there is saying, "So here they go again, but what are enzymes exactly?"
Yeah.
And so you're talking about something that cannot be exposed to temperatures that exceed 118 degrees. And these are those things in your body that help to break down, to move, and to correlate everything else that's coming in. So when you start talking about whether or not the body has the enzymes available in its capacity to do anything, just the fact that you're talking about something that functions in something that's 118 degrees or less. So to even mention after that, when you start talking about meat products or how your enzymes are going to function best when you're incorporating them into your foods, all of those are on the other side of the wall. So even if you had a good source of enzymes, the more of these other things that you put in that don't look like enzymes in terms of its characteristic, that main characteristic being that thing that does not exceed 118 degrees, looks like raw food, looks like lightly steamed vegetables. You know, so those would say that if I need enzymes in everything, the more of that raw food, the more of that food type that looks more like what an enzyme looks like, the better off I'm going to be. Because immediately people say, "Oh, here she comes talking about we can't eat chicken anymore." But there's a reason for that. And that's not anymore. It's just not so much of it so often, right?
Well, that's the beginning of the story.
That's the very beginning of the story. And that's a very important part of the story.
Yeah.
So when we talk about, you know, any of the foods that are actually cooked, that begin to, and we put that slide up for people to be able to see that. Yeah. And I think most people, when they think about digestive enzymes, they're thinking about, I need to lose some weight. That's very important, and that's going to be helpful. But also, it's about your mental functionality. My dad and I were having a discussion on yesterday about they've got some new reports about what they think might be able to cure Alzheimer's disease, but they don't really know. And he started to even laugh, and he's really into the medical people. He said, but they don't know yet. So if you're dealing with somebody that said, "Oh, by the time they find out, it's going to be too late anyway." And I says, why doesn't the conversation focus more on how to prevent these things? Right. How do you prevent Alzheimer's? Right. And so he went on. I says, you have to, and I said that, and I says, you have to start looking at what you're feeding your brain. Right. And he said also that they had mentioned that people that think about ideas, visionaries, and think about new ideas and concepts, that helps. And so now when we're talking about enzymes, one of the main functions of the enzyme is to keep your mental and your physical functions to a point of optimism.
And we are faced with a lot of mental conditions that are preventable if we know what to do and how to do them. But we are moving so far into this that we want to blame everything else but ourselves for where, and we have to start with science first, I think, in terms of what the body needs. You got to give it what it needs. There are separate enzymes to break down beans than it is to break down vegetables than it is to break down something else. So you want to make sure you get a good complex. I guess make sure you eat, number one, and then you want to make sure you got a good complex of enzymes so that you can break down whatever you're eating, and that's sometimes not easy to do in terms of the getting the right enzyme at the right strength to do what you need to do in your body. And that will eliminate a lot of the things that we buy over the counter for upset stomach and gas and all the other stuff that we suffer with.
Correct. And so I know you're saying, well, when are they going to tell us what the enzymes are? We're going to tell you that, but we just want you to make sure that you can have the best enzymes from the best health food store and the best proprietor in the world. But you have to make sure that there's a balance here and that you are taking a look at some of the things that you're eating. So when we come back from a commercial break, we're going to put a screen up of Koi's information, how you can get in touch with him during the commercial break, and then we're going to come back and tell you the enzymes that he makes available to you that we also will have on our website for you, and why we believe that powder is better than the pill type form. And then a couple of other things you need to know about enzymes. And then we're going to slide right back. When we do come back, we're going to just go right into the discussion on Paget's disease. Because Paget's disease is a bone disease. And when you look at what it does is the regeneration of bones. So your bones do two things. They develop, and then they have to regenerate for the most part as you get older. And whether it's Paget's disease, whether it's cancer, whether it's arthritis, osteoporosis, anything, they all keep coming back to the same place. And so we're going to talk about some of those minerals that make a huge difference in terms of body development that you really have to watch out for. So whether it's Paget's disease that you have curiosity or questions about, or what most people are struggling with today, arthritis, obesity, dull brain activity function, I mean, it just keeps coming back to the same thing, and that's the foundation. Being an engineer, as I was going through school, was all about the foundation. Nothing else mattered.
That's
Above
right.
ground just doesn't matter. If you have a rock solid foundation, then anything else can change, and you can come back and do something and rectify something relatively quickly. And the foundation for being well, the foundation for holistic wellness that we're talking about every hour here on Mondays, is about what you feed your body, your mind, and your spirit.
Correct.
All of that goes along. When Koi talked about his mom, you said that you guys had to make sure that your mind was right. That you were praying, and you were doing these other things.
Right.
And so that's just,
You got to do the whole thing.
it has to be done. It sounds good when we say holistic, mind, body, and spirit. It's cliche-ish, but it really, it matters. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to put some information on the screen for you to be able to start getting some enzymes, hopefully along with the other information that you've been getting to implement so that you will be where you need to be. Okay? We'll be right back. Greetings. We'd like to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors, True Pop Popcorn by Life by Dallas Incorporated. What's so fabulous about True Pop Popcorn? First of all, it's air popped, so the dietary fiber is high. They use nutritional yeast to make it taste like it has cheese on it, and sunflower oil to give it a buttery flavor without adding the bad stuff. It's absolutely great. You'd never think it was vegan. That's True Pop Popcorn by Life by Dallas Incorporated in 3 yummy flavors: just plain good, garlic overdose, and the crowd favorite. Stop by your nearby stores and get some today, or feel free to go to dallaspopcorn.com. So we're back, and don't have the picture of the enzymes, but we have Koi's information. Secrets of Nature, 3923 South Capitol Street, Southwest, and that phone number is 202-562-0041. And this afternoon, by 3 o'clock p.m., you will be able to go on to lifebydallas.com, see a picture of the enzymes, order them, and we'll have them to you in a couple of days. So let's talk about pills, and we talk about pills all the time. In order to make a pill, ladies and gentlemen, if you go to your medicine cabinet and you pick up a bottle of pills or anything else, it's probably got a shelf life of 2 years, 3 years for most pills, sometimes longer than that.
It doesn't matter, 'cause they're no good anyway.
And he said that. I didn't say that. He said it doesn't matter anyway because they're probably no good. So you really have to think about that, though. So when we think about anything that we talked about it last week, that we're these plants, and when you're dealing with a live plant, you must give it fresh sunlight and fresh water, and you can't put fake plant food in there if you expect anything to happen. And so when you start thinking about now, this time of the year, coming into the fall season, I turned the water hose on because everything is just dry.
Yeah, I have
Everything is just dry. And it's just like, your grass is not going to get green the rest of the year. But I put fertilizer and malagonite and things down a couple of weeks ago. In some kind of way, I want it to penetrate before,
next spring.
3 weeks that it's been on the ground already. It's a slow release of nitrogen and some other things. So you have to look at the human body like that. Imagine your body being the grass today, and for the last 5 days it hasn't rained. They're not projecting real rain for another 10 days. We might get a storm or something. And so the soil has just dried out. And so if you go and you touch it, dust splatters all over the place and there's nothing happening. That's the human body. We can't overemphasize the fact that we are 67% water, and 95% of us is calcium. Calcium is responsible for strong bones and our teeth. And the other small 5% or so actually controls the brain functionality, how our blood works. And if we don't have that little 5%, we just are going to be like the dry grass, just nothing but like dust. Just it blow us away. We become fragile. There's no strength and stability to us. In fact, some of the characteristics of being calcium deficient are people that stammer, people that stutter a lot, people that lack courage. Calcium, one of the key characteristics of calcium is being a courageous person. And so when we talk about the enzymes are nutrients. They have to combine with other nutrients in order to work. So a lot of times if we don't have the calcium in the body, it can't readily absorb the enzymes that you give it.
That's correct.
The important thing to know about calcium is that when we eat sugar, when we eat soda pops, when we eat anything like that, it actually excretes calcium from the body. So we already are deficient in calcium for sure. And then a lot of the practices that we do even take us into a further deficit.
Yeah, we drink too many sodas, we eat too much sugar. And
Way too much.
And as a result, the body, in its quest to find calcium, pulls it from the bone. That's the beginning of arthritis, all the things that are preventable if we know that in time to figure the best source for us to receive or ingest our calcium, then we can prevent a lot of the pain and the bone problems that we have. And that's the beginning. You got to give the body what it needs.
And that's Paget's disease in a nutshell. So what's happening is that the bones aren't there. So we want to at least give the title, the name of the enzymes. Isotonic. And they're only available at Secrets of Nature. So don't go to Amazon.com. We had Mr. Dunstan take a precious hour out of his day, his busy day, to come and talk to us. The least we can do is support the enzymes that he knows is going to be better. And those are in the powder form, because when you have to make pills, not only are you dealing with something that has a shelf life that takes it into morbidity, you're looking at what has to take place in that process. I was talking to someone last night just about drinking tea. Our tea comes where you use a seed. Most teas come in the little white bags. And how did they get bleachy white like that? They've been chlorinated. And yet you're taking something as sensitive as an herb and putting it into that and then adding hot water to it. All of that combines together, just like when you're eating canned goods. So it's not funny, but it's just like, it's America.
And we go for the hype, so if we got a pretty package and a nice picture, then we go for it. And oftentimes we need to understand what we are going for, because most of the time what they're giving us over the counter is not the best way to get it. And oftentimes we want to get our sources always from plants if we can. If you can't get it from plants, then you have no choice but to supplement. But you need to supplement with a supplement that you can break down and use and assimilate. And that's the digestion, assimilation, and elimination problem that leads to most diseases.
Right. And so digestion, assimilation, and elimination may sound like foreign matter. So some of our listeners, I'm very careful today I had a conversation with someone, and every 2 minutes they were saying, well, what does that mean? And so you have to be conscious of the fact that as we speak so much and we have the opportunity to speak so much, that a lot of times we give information and people just don't know. So I always try to break it down into the simplest illustrations.
Yeah.
And I love to use the illustration of the car.
Right.
So you have a gas container, or a nozzle that you put gas into your vehicle to get the gas into, to matriculate through the system and get you from point A to point B.
Gas tank,
And so that hole is about that large for that gas nozzle.
Right.
And so that hole could also, I could easily put a Snicker bar in there.
Right,
I could put a
right.
Twix candy
Whatever
bar.
you
I
want.
could put a hot dog, ham smoked, chili cheese dog, and some other stuff in there. Just because I can get it through there doesn't mean that it's going to move that car from A to B.
That's good.
And as hilarious as that is, why would you be putting a Snicker bar in your gas tank?
I wasn't going to say
It
that.
is the same thing when you decide to eat something
Right.
that has number 4 color dye in it, or some long 15-syllable word. Where did that come from?
Yeah.
I can't even pronounce it. Why am I going to eat it?
That's what we do.
That's why I love to talk to Coy, because I can just be an absolute fool.
That's where we are. That's where we are. That's
And
what
that
we
is
do.
where we are. And so,
Yeah.
yet, when you come and you talk to people about things, they kind of look at you like you have 16 heads.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, I really should be looking at you like you have 26 heads.
Yeah.
But why would you put that in your body? And people often come to me and say, well, you know, Dr. Dallas, I only eat X, Y, and Z on such and such. And I'm saying, well, how often do you drink paint? And then they just kind of look at me like, what did she just say? Exactly. We don't drink paint because we know paint is not good for us. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to just have paint on Sundays. I'm never going to put it in my body.
Correct.
So, and then we just have to get mature. It's not about vanity. It's just to a point where you just feel good. You know, I've been so busy that I haven't had time to just think about things. And I had a little bit of a heel spur that I've had for years from military steel toe boot training.
Yeah.
And every now and then it flares up a bit. And it comes from improper stretching, lack of stretching, I should say, just rushing, you know, not drinking enough fluids. And here lately I've been on the tennis court when it's 95 degrees for 3 hours, like I have no sense or brain in my head.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy when it's that hot outside to guzzle down some very cold water. And when you're drinking cold water, if you're drinking anything that's very hot, it doesn't mix with the gastric juices, which means that your digestive system begins to halt. And if I'm not digesting even the good foods that I'm eating properly because I'm sucking down 60 ounces of frigid cold water, then I'm going to get that pain because the body is not being able to assimilate properly. And so even, you know, people that know better, sometimes you can fall and, you know, not pay attention. We should only drink things at room temperature. Even if you're eating ice cream, I read someone's text, not a text, but on Facebook, saying that there was a study that came out that said eating ice cream for breakfast can be something for your brain.
Oh, what? Brain freeze.
And so, do you even have to read that article? I just put, really? And it's just because it's printed somewhere. I don't know. I have to go back and read, but I'm just like, really doubt it.
Yeah,
but even with ice cream being something that's frigid cold, I tell people, when you're eating your vegan ice cream or your soy delicious ice cream or whatever the case may be, just don't eat it rock hard frozen.
Yeah.
Take it out and let it sit in a room where it just softens up a bit, and then that way it doesn't put your system like into the straitjacket.
Right.
So let's just kind of like quickly, because wow, we're almost out of time. It's just always great to talk to you.
Always a pleasure. Yes,
I
sir.
just
glad to talk to your audience. I'm glad you invited me.
Absolutely, we
come
love
back
having
and
you here.
let me know again. Please.
And I never eat out. I mean, like almost never. And when I do eat out, it's over at Secrets of Nature. I know there are a lot of new chic designer vegan raw food places, and me and my other friends are always saying that, you know, if I really had time, I would do a raw restaurant because there's nowhere you can really eat. Even people that try to do the right thing, you know, they'll put your nice vegan burger onto a white bun, you know. But Coy, knows how to do food. He really does. And then there's something to be said about your energy. Can't you? You can feel his spirit through the TV monitor. And I always tell people, I don't mind giving you the recipe to my foods because it's the love and the nurture and the energy that comes through the right spirit and mind that goes right through the food that makes it incredible. So if you do want to do a little something fried, Koi is the best fried broccoli and cabbage rolls that are done just perfectly. Not too much heat, not too much grease, the right kind of grease, the right kind of nutrients. And then the steam table items are just... he's the only person that I'll let do my pancakes. People often say, Dougie Fresh is a really good friend of mine. He always say, Dallas, do you have any vices? What's your vice? And I was like, what do you mean, what's my vice? And so then I says, I love multi-grain pancakes that I make with pineapple juice and olive oil. And then I put them into a skillet, slice some bananas, put some pecans, and have me some grade B maple syrup over it with some more bananas and pecans on top. And I make it where it's just perfect. And my stomach's not bothering me, and I'm feeling good, and I can go run really well after that. Well, Koi is the only person that I will let do that for me if I don't feel like doing it for myself, because he knows how to do it perfectly.
And I would like to invite everybody to come down and experience the what food should kind of be like, something you can aspire to make your food taste like. It doesn't have to taste bad, and it doesn't have to be bad tasting. So you want to just learn how to use the herbs and spices and blend them to a place to where you can, you get the flavor in your mouth. You want the soul flavor, so to speak. And it don't have to be bland, and it don't have to be rubbery. And you can fix it just like you would fix any other food. It's just learning how to use plants to create the taste that you want in your food.
Right. Right. His food is fabulous. I mean, really, we should all get together there and have a party one day.
Yes.
The other piece to that is that those are the types of foods that you want to be consuming when you're taking those type of enzymes that you know are going to work. Here's the key that I tell people. A lot of people will invite me places. Sometimes they'll even bring me dishes. And, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I always tell people it's the 80-20% rule. 80% of the time, if you're doing what you should be doing, the other 20% is not going to matter.
Right.
And would you believe that 20% of life accounts for most anniversaries, birthday celebrations, and the weekends?
Yeah.
I mean, so if you just kind of do what you're supposed to do Monday through Friday, you can just act like a fool on Saturdays and Sundays. And the more that you do that, the body will gravitate to those things that you do Monday through Friday, because it'll be like, you know what? I feel better when we do this over here.
Right.
I really you have to get there, but I really believe that.
The main thing is to start doing something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just wait till you deteriorate and the doctor tell you got this, that, and the other, and then try to figure out what to do. You got to be proactive. Learn what your body needs and begin to feed it that way. Grains, nuts, seeds, fruits, and vegetables.
Mm-hmm. And pay attention to your body. Begin to become intimate with your own body. As we talk about sexual health, which we're running out of time today to do, we start talking about paying attention to everything. Everything goes together.
Right.
And so when I'm consuming products, I can tell by the next morning if it's something that's had regular salt in it, a little bit soy or something. My joints get stiff. I mean, it's just like this yucky feeling. Right. And so that's how I know which foods are good for me. And there's actually been a couple of places I've been able to go to and say, that actually works for me. Right. And then there's some places that are like everybody's talking about, it's at the top of the list. And I'm just like, are you kidding? It's something in there that kills the stomach, kills the joints and everything else. But you need to know how you feel. And you'll never know that until you go through a fast. Yeah. You have to fast. People tell me I'm allergic to this, I'm allergic to that. I don't care how long you've been allergic to nuts and seeds. The body humanly can't be allergic to anything that's pure and whole. You just can't. We were created from the earth, And so in order to go back and find out what's going on, and most times it's not the food, but it's the improper food combinations that we do. The adding the meat, the protein, and the starches together.
Carbohydrates and the protein.
Exactly.
That's not a good mix. That's an explosion ready to happen. You're creating gas when you do that, and that's why we have so many digestive problems. Mm-hmm. But one thing that again,
that they create gas.
They create them. That's it. When you combine them, they create a gas, and that's where you have the digestion. But one thing you mentioned earlier was about water. And we probably need to at least drink half our body weight in ounces of water each day. Mm-hmm. And that's important for everything else to work, because We say we're 80-90% water, and we have to drink good, clean water for any of this to work. Without the water, we're in trouble. We're going to dehydrate and go into a state of disease by not drinking enough water. So if you feel hungry in the morning or feel hungry anytime, drink you a big glass of water first. Make sure it's the best water you can drink, and you'll find that you won't have to eat, or you don't have a desire to eat as much in the first place if you keep your body hydrated. And
Right.
This weather, you need to really be mindful of that. So just as a side point.
And throw some lemon. Just add some fresh lemon juice to that warm 20-ounce bottle of water that you have every morning, just to stay on top of your liver health. I mean, that's something, the liver is considered to be a yellow organ. So you take something that's yellow dock herbs, but lemons will go in. When you go to the mechanic shop, and the degreasers that they use for the equipment and the floor has real lemons in it.
Right.
When you buy lemon juice from the store, it has artificial lemons.
And it strips out a lot of
Exactly. It clears
clogged up
everything.
stuff. Yeah.
I do that every day just because.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that for 40 years now. So I tell my clients to do that. We see the difference when they come back in for testing. So that lemon water. Just want to hit on Reverend Williams' question about the Paget's disease. Yes, we've been kind of all over the map here today.
Yeah.
But the bone degeneration. So the bones have to start to recreate themselves later on in life. A third of the bone health that you have today comes from your adolescent years. So that growth spurt from the ages of 13 to 18 are some of the most crucial times that will determine the longevity of your bones later. And you look at even kids that are on high school sports, volleyball, baseball, basketball teams, they have the worst diets because they are working out more than their friends. For some reason, parents think, well, they can eat a little bit more junk. And then they're using their bodies more. So even more importantly, that they focus on diets that have good sources of calcium. Calcium is where you get your bone development from. People talk about all the time, what are the RDA recommended daily amounts for protein, carbohydrates. There actually aren't any for protein. Once you get beyond the age of 21, the bone development piece is gone.
Right.
And so after that, it's just a matter of maintaining and doing the things that are going to keep the body strengthened. And calcium continues to strengthen our bones to keep us strong. You've got to have a good calcium source. Without calcium, whenever you go to the hospital and you're not well, and this speaks to our decision to go for powdered supplements before pill supplements, in addition to the other things that we discussed earlier, it's because when you're sick and you go into the emergency room, for example, half of the times you come in and you're unconscious. No matter who you are and what your condition is, they're going to put you onto an IV. Now, a lot of people think that it's the IV that makes you well. The IV is just the method in which they're getting the contents out of the IV bag into your blood system in order to make you well immediately. Which is in the bag content. You're dealing with calcium is usually the first thing. Calcium, sodium, magnesium. Those are potassium. Those are the things that they're going to be administering to you. And they have to do it in a liquid form. They could very well give you an apple that has plenty of potassium, calcium, and everything else under the sun in it, or that lemon that has all of the minerals and vitamins in it. But by the time it gets it past the dysfunctionality of the gastrointestinal system, which has to be a problem if you are sick, then you die for sure. So they want to do that as quickly as possible, knowing that it will go right into the bloodstream. So that is another reason that I tell people, in the process of finding out what you're really truly allergic to, in the process of finding out how to change from improper food combinations, you have to do it in a liquid form. So a part of that detoxification process is getting the body cleansed and then beginning to incorporate the minerals and vitamins that the body needs, and then going back and just kind of slowly eating differently, and then seeing what happens in terms of whether or not we're doing the snorting and the blowing out of the thing, or the swelling, or all the other agitations that people have. And so detoxification, fasting is a good way to do that. for Pat, in terms of being diagnosed with the relative with the Paget's disease, what you have to do is get them to a place where they begin to start having a diet that's plant-based. Why plant-based? Because you're going to get a lot of minerals and vitamins that are very difficult to get from a meat-based diet. And so you do that, you try to do a lot of that in the liquid form initially to begin that rejuvenation process. The liquid form would be a green herbal tea.
And we want to say too that the dairy products is not a good source of calcium. Your body can't assimilate it, and it usually leads to the problems that we wind up making us sick. And so we want to try to get our calcium in all supplements from a plant base as much as we can, not from an animal source. You'll be a lot better off.
Right. So we're not even, I mean, and that's such a long conversation. And when you're having limited time to talk to people, you don't even go there because people are so, that switch goes on and all. I don't even want to hear anything because I'm not going to stop eating my ice cream. So what you do is you go the opposite route. And so I tell people, when you look on the list of how high calcium foods, and you, even if you're taking the supplements, start paying attention to calcium phosphate. I mean, it's not going to say calcium itself. It's either going to come in a calcium bicarbonate. I mean, I had given a list of the percentages that you have. So you go back and you look, and something might be 2,200 milligrams, but when you look to the breakdown, it's only 220 milligrams of calcium itself. All greens, collard, kale, mustard, are averaging about 165 milligrams per cup. So that tells you load up on that versus 110 milligrams per cup of calcium in a glass of milk. But even if you don't want to get completely away from your milk, just look at a glass of orange juice has just as much calcium per cup than a cup of milk. That there's a controversy about whether you believe it or not. There's controversy, so let's just stay away from that. No one's talking too bad about orange juice, so let's just switch to that until we get to a point where we can get rid of some of the illness and disease that we're already trailing from. And so it comes from magnesium. So we're talking about good sources of calcium right now. So you stick with the greens, and then you look at your beans, but those have to be cooked or processed. And as you're trying to get well, you want to stay away from the cooked foods. You want to stick with your fruits and vegetables, especially in the raw or lightly steamed states. And so I say that, so most of your best top of the line items are 165, 155 milligrams per cup. However, my clients know that when they come in and there's an issue with anything dealing with bone disease, degeneration of the bones, and we have the electromagnetic testing that tells me everything. It actually tells me that here's where your bone strength is. You're at 20% of your age ligament. You know, so you can see where you are and you can start to do things. So I've had clients, and my recommendation, 1 tablespoon of blackstrap molasses gets you 125 milligrams. And what? It's liquid, which means what? It's like implementing an IV. It's going directly into your bloodstream. 1 tablespoon. And for those that are already diabetic, I mean, this is the next best thing. I mean, so just something as simple as that. And then there are different types of blackstrap molasses out there. So whenever you start putting out the good news, someone comes out with something, and so you're not getting sulfured molasses. You're not getting the molasses that when you turn the bottle upside down, it's like rushing liquid, because that's not the first run of the blackstrap. So just little things like that, but paying attention to the amount of calcium. Now here's the closeout for the show today, is that the body cannot absorb the calcium if it doesn't have the adequate amount of iodine in the system. Calcium is not readily absorbed without iodine being present. And that is why, if I ever had to be on an island, and most of anybody that's ever come to one of my lectures can finish that sentence, I would be stuck with sea moss, spirulina, and bee pollen.
There you go.
They're the 3 that will keep you alive. And starting out with that. And so when my ankle was bothering me, you know, I started maybe some sea moss again and started taking tablespoons of sea moss.
Of all minerals.
3, it has, out of all of the minerals, out of everything the body has in terms of all of its elements, sea moss contains all but 3. That's amazing. It is a complete nutrient. And so you can take it and make it and throw it into your smoothies and things like that. But when something's really going on, you just start taking tablespoons of it. You can add a little lemon juice or a little orange juice if the taste, there isn't really a taste, but there's a mental thing going on when you're just taking a tablespoon of that. But definitely something that has your calcium, your iodine sources, anything that comes from the sea. That is where we get our life from. Silicon, the body needs silicon to be well. these are the things that you get from, I sprinkle dried seaweed on all of my salads, on all of my sweet potatoes, on everything. And that's great for your hair. We didn't talk about sexual health, but if there are any problems going on with the sexual organs, seaweed, iodine for the hair, the skin, the nails. Just doesn't get better than that. Thank you for being on our show today.
I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. We'll have to have you come back. Let me know. In the meantime, 202-562-0041. You can easily get linked to Coy through our website, lifebydallas.com. Please send me your questions, your comments. This show will be available to you. We tape it, and it will be on our Facebook page. It will be on our website, and we would encourage you to share it with your family and friends so that they too will be well. And again, we haven't started. The real show starts officially October the 7th. We're just coming to continue to get to know you and to kind of fill you out and see how we can best serve you. And we know that when we bring Coy on, we're only going to talk about one thing because the hour is going to go by so quickly and the program and agenda goes out the window. But we appreciate your support. We appreciate having you here, and looking forward to next week. Send me your questions and comments. And for those of you who've already been sharing the information, thank you so much. A major thank you to our sponsors, True Pop Popcorn. They are available at Secrets of Nature as well. Get some popcorn. So when you come pick up your popcorn at Secrets of Nature, grab you some whole grain pancakes with bananas and pecans, and some of the other fabulous lunch fare. And Coy does catering, and he'll sit and talk to you about your health issues as well. All right. So, again, thank you, Coy.
Thank you,
Anything else you want to just say in 2 seconds?
Well, I invite everyone to come down and see me at 3923 South Capitol Street, Southwest, or you can call 202-562-0041. We are there Monday through Saturday, generally, from 8 to 6 p.m. daily. No Sundays, and sometimes I'll take a day off if I feel like it. So just be prepared for that.
Okay, next month when you come back, you'll come with some food.
That'll work.
You'll get a chance to see what it looks like and watch me eat it and smile all over the place. Thanks again for joining us. AskDrDallas.com. See you next week.